Welcome, dear viewers, to an exciting journey into the world of macrame. Today, we delve into this intricate art form which traces its roots back to 13th century Arabian weavers. Macrame, with its mesmerizing knots and patterns, can transform simple threads into stunning creations. In this video, we'll guide you step by step in crafting a captivating macrame wall hanging, a perfect addition to any home decor. Stay tuned to learn how to create your own beautiful masterpiece. Before we begin, it's essential to gather all the necessary materials. Our first requirement is the macrame cord, the star of the show. This cord is what we'll be using to create our intricate knots and patterns. It's best to go for a high-quality, durable one that can withstand the knotting process. Next up, we have the wooden dowel. This will serve as the foundation for our wall hanging. It will hold all our cords in place and give structure to our design. You can also use a metal rod or a sturdy stick if you prefer a different look. A pair of sharp scissors is also a must-have. We'll be using these to cut our cords to the right length. And lastly, a tape measure, to ensure we're cutting the correct lengths and maintaining consistency throughout our design. Now that we have all our materials, we can start crafting. The first step in our macrame project is preparing our cords. So let's dive right into it. To create our macrame wall hanging, we first need to measure our cords. Now, the length of your cord will depend on the size of your project. But as a general rule of thumb, it's always better to have more cord than less. For a standard wall hanging, you might want to start with cords that are about 4 times the length of your desired finished product. Now let's move on to cutting our cords. A sharp pair of scissors is your best friend here. Make sure your cuts are clean and straight. There's nothing more frustrating than trying to thread a frayed cord through a knot. To prevent fraying, you can wrap a small piece of tape around the cord before cutting. This will ensure a clean cut every time. Once we have our cords measured and cut, it's time to attach them to our wooden dowel. We'll be using a knot called a lark's head knot. It's one of the most basic knots in macrame, and it's perfect for attaching cords to a dowel. Here's how you make a lark's head knot. Fold your cord in half to find the center. Then, place the center of the cord over the dowel. Now, bring the ends of the cord up and through the loop created by the fold. Pull tight and voila, you've got a lark's head knot. Continue this process until all your cords are attached to the dowel. Make sure your knots are evenly spaced and that the cords hang straight down. This will ensure a neat and tidy start to your project. And there you have it, you've just prepared your cords for your macrame wall hanging. It may seem like a simple step, but trust me, it's an essential one. Properly prepared cords are the foundation of a beautiful macrame piece. With our cords prepared and attached, we're ready to start knotting. The beauty of macrame lies in its knots. No truer words have been spoken when it comes to this ancient art form, but don't fret, mastering these knots is easier than you might think. Today, we're going to focus on 2 fundamental knots, the square knot and the double half hitch. First up, the square knot. The square knot is the backbone of many macrame designs, and it's quite simple to make. Start by crossing the left cord over the right, creating a loop. Then, bring the right cord over the left and through the loop. Pull it tight and you've completed the first half of your square knot. To finish, repeat the process, but this time, cross the right cord over the left. And voila, that's your square knot. Next, the double half hitch. This knot might sound complicated, but it's just as straightforward as the square knot. Begin by holding one cord taut. This will be your filler cord. Then, take another cord and make a loop around the filler cord. Pull the end through the loop and pull tight. Repeat this process once more and you have your double half hitch. Remember, practice makes perfect. So don't get discouraged if your knots don't look perfect right away. Just keep at it and soon you'll be knotting like a pro. Also, don't be afraid to experiment. Try different combinations of knots or even invent your own. The possibilities are endless. In the world of macrame, the knots are the stars of the show. They are the building blocks that form intricate designs and patterns. With these 2 basic knots under your belt, you're well on your way to creating beautiful macrame pieces. Before we move on, let's review. The square knot is made by crossing the left cord over the right, then the right over the left. The double half hitch is created by looping a cord around a filler cord twice. Practice these knots until you're comfortable with them. Then you're ready to move on to more complex designs. Now that we've mastered the basic knots, we can begin the design. Now comes the fun part, creating our design. Picture this, a simple but elegant macrame design that's all yours. This is where your creativity meets the knots you've just mastered. It's time to weave a tapestry of imagination, one knot at a time. Begin with a basic pattern. Let's start with a series of square knots. Remember, this knot is the backbone of macrame. It's like the bread in a sandwich, the canvas in a painting. It's where everything begins. Now imagine a row of these square knots, each one snug against its neighbor, forming a beautiful rhythmic pattern. This is our foundation, our starting point. But don't stop here. Add in some spiral knots. These knots will give your design a twist, literally. They'll spiral around, adding depth and intrigue to your piece. Think of them as the cheese in our sandwich, the color in our painting. They add flavor and vibrancy. Next, let's incorporate some half-hitch knots. These knots can create a beautiful diagonal or curved lines, breaking up the monotony and adding interest. But remember, these are just suggestions. This is your art, your expression. Feel free to mix and match, to experiment with different knots, different patterns. Maybe you want a design filled with spiral knots, or perhaps you prefer the simplicity of square knots. Perhaps you want to add in some beads or feathers or even a splash of color with dyed cords. Go ahead. This is your canvas and you are the artist. Let the knots guide your creativity. Let them weave a story, a mood. Let your hands dance with the cords. Let your fingers play with the knots. Be bold, be subtle, be everything in between. And as you work, step back every now and then. Look at your design from a distance. Does it feel balanced? Does it reflect your vision? If not, don't be afraid to undo a few knots, to rearrange a few cords. In macrame, as in life, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to start over. Because every knot, every twist, every turn is a step towards your masterpiece. So go ahead. Let your imagination soar. Let your creativity bloom. Let your fingers weave a tapestry of dreams. Because this is more than just a wall hanging. This is a piece of you, a piece of your heart woven into every knot, every chord. And remember, this is a journey, not a race. Take your time. Enjoy the process. Relish each knot, each twist, each turn. Because in the end, it's not just about creating a design. It's about expressing yourself. It's about creating a piece of art. And voila, you've created your very own macrame design. We're almost done. It's time to finalize our wall hanging. Now, as you gaze at your masterpiece, you'll notice those loose cords at the bottom. It's time to give them a trim. Make sure to leave a little extra length for a natural fringed look. Next, we'll secure the knots. This is crucial for the longevity of your wall hanging. Gently tug at each knot to ensure they're snug and secure. Remember, the stronger the knot, the longer your wall hanging will last. Now, the moment we've been waiting for. Hanging your masterpiece. Choose a spot that complements your decor, perhaps above the couch or maybe in the entryway. Wherever it is, your macrame wall hanging is sure to add a touch of handmade charm. Congratulations! You've just made a beautiful macrame wall hanging. Can't wait to see where you decide to hang it in your home. Let's quickly recap what we've accomplished today. We've gathered our materials, prepared our cords, mastered the basic knots, created a design, and finalized a stunning wall hanging. The satisfaction of crafting something beautiful with your own hands is beyond words. It's not just about the end product, but also the journey of creation. Thank you for joining us on this creative adventure. Keep experimenting, keep creating, and most importantly, have fun.